Reading from Matthew chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. May God add his blessing to our reading and our meditation upon his word. Sunday before Christmas. A question we should be asking ourselves is my heart and my home ready to receive the Messiah, Jesus? Is my heart and my home ready to receive the Messiah, Jesus? In the account of the visit of the wise men, we find two groups of people who exemplify for us two ways to miss the Messiah. Even though both of these groups knew, the chief priests and the rulers, they knew the prophecies, they knew the revelation, they knew the place where the Messiah was to be born. But when he was born, they missed him. And then there was King Herod. He had the advantage of knowing from the religious rulers the knowledge that came from the revelation. But he also had other information that he got from the wise men that also pointed to the fact that the Messiah is to come. Yet he and people like him also missed the Messiah. Very briefly, I want to invite you to consider these two ways of missing the Messiah. The religious rulers, the chief priests, when asked the question by King Herod, they didn't have trouble answering that question. They knew exactly where Jesus was to be born. They knew what the prophecies were. They knew and understood what was promised by God. Yet, when God moved, when he moved to fulfill his promise to send the Messiah, they missed him. They missed him because his coming would disrupt their status quo. The arrangements that they had made to keep themselves at the center of everything that was happening in their worlds would have got messed up. So also with King Herod. He was told and he understood that the king was to come. He understood, having been told by the chief priests and the rulers, the religious rulers, what the prophecies said, and having learned from the wisdom of the wise men who came, or what other guidance God was giving to people in the world who were seeking him. Yet he understood these prophecies and this wisdom to mean for him a threat to his kingship and his kingdom. And he missed the Messiah as well. The wise men didn't, because they sought the Messiah. In their heart was a desire, having been guided. We don't know how they came upon that guidance, but we do know that God communicated to them. It says in this passage, verse 12, that they were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod. God had been speaking to them, and they were seeking him. And because they were seeking him, and because they were willing to travel long distances, they were willing to make the seeking of the Messiah Jesus, the center point of their lives, the center point of their desire, the center and the focus of their desire and life, they found him. You see, the reason the chief priests and the rulers missed the Messiah, and the reason King Herod missed the Messiah, was simply this: they sought to remain in control and be the prime movers of their own lives. And so therein we have a lesson for ourselves. Would we miss God's move in our midst? Would we miss the Messiah? Would we miss Jesus this Christmas? We would, if our desire would be to keep ourselves and the little worlds that we have constructed around ourselves at the center of our lives. See, Jesus comes to those who make room for him in their lives, who open themselves up to rearranging the elements, the aspects, the parts of their lives to give centrality to God's Messiah, Jesus. And so, this fourth Sunday, the Sunday before Christmas, the fourth Sunday of Advent, the Sunday before Christmas, it becomes even more of an urgent question to ask ourselves: is my heart and my home ready to receive the Messiah, Jesus? And my prayer is for myself as well as for you, that yes, we would make room in our lives for the Messiah, Jesus, that our hearts would be found seeking God, because God says anyone who seeks him with all of their heart and mind and soul will find him. The Messiah, Jesus, looks to be the King of your life and my life. This Christmas, let's make room for Jesus in our lives. in our hearts and our homes.